Andrew Tate and his brother Tristan have become central figures in this global conversation about masculinity, about the reach of social media influence, and about the possibility of criminal behaviour. Their rise to prominence is as controversial as it is rapid, fueled by their espousal of this hyper-masculine ideal and their rhetoric, which often borders on the extreme. They now face serious accusations ranging from human trafficking, rape, the forming of criminal gangs to exploit women, money laundering, and the recent raids on their Romanian house in the middle of ongoing legal battles about the allegations against them underscore the serious nature of their position, the broad implication of their public personas, particularly in the light of their rhetoric that inflamed the riots in Southport and elsewhere. The Tate brothers are, the struggles are multifaceted, intertwining legal battles and public relations efforts to maintain their brand. And simply making a noise at a time of crisis doesn't mean it's very difficult to pin the crisis on Andrew Tate's comments in the same way it's difficult to pin the crisis on Tommy Robinson's comments. And indeed, apparently, Tommy Robinson's profile has shot up since those riots, not surprisingly. Since their arrest in 2022, the brothers have been embroiled in a complex legal situation. Initially held in police detention, later moved to house arrest. More recently, they faced restrictions on their movements in Romania itself, though I thought they were allowed to move into Europe. They don't seem to have done so. The legal proceedings against them are ongoing, with prosecutors alleging that they've led a criminal organisation, exploited women, including minors, and these charges are grave. And the Romanian anti-organised crime agency, the DIICOT, I thought it was DCOT, has been thorough in its investigation, as evidenced in the raids today. The recent developments, including these new raids and the search for search in multiple properties, suggest that the authorities are continuing to gather evidence and probably uncover new dimensions of alleged criminal activity. And the presence of minors as part of the allegations introduces another layer of severity to the case, with potential implications. I mean, it may just be muddying the Tate name, but it's being very effective in doing so. The Tate's public persona has been built around a specific, often toxic interpretation of masculinity, and their rhetoric emphasizes dominance, control, and the rejection of what they describe as society's attempts to emasculate men. In international relations, masculinity is often discussed in the context of power dynamics, where traditional masculine traits are associated with strength, with aggression, with authority. And the Tates have capitalized on this by promoting an exaggerated form of masculinity that appeals to a particular demographic, primarily young men who are themselves questioning their identity, who feel disenfranchised, disillusioned by the modern approach to identity, the modern diversity of identity. This brand of hypermasculinity, which also encompasses a tray of responsibility, taking responsibility for your actions, which must be a good thing. But the hypermasculinity has been criticized for perpetuating harmful stereotypes on the whole and encouraging misogyny. And the Tate's influence on social media, where there are millions of followers, has only amplified these concerns. Their ability to mobilize and radicalize their audience through their content has been linked to broader social tension, including the rhetoric that's inflamed the political and social movements that we've seen in the last few weeks, some of which have escalated into the riots or the violent protests. The Tates rhetoric has not only shaped online discourse, but has also spilled over into real-world actions, in other words. Their followers, galvanized by their messages, have been implicated in unrest both online and offline, and the connection between the Tates messaging and the increase in extremist views, among young men particularly, is troubling. Their ability to influence large swathes of the population highlights the risks associated with unchecked social media influence, especially when it promotes extremism. Critics argue that the Tate's portrayal of masculinity contributes to this culture of violence and misogyny, which can manifest in more significant practical problems, such as the normalization of exploitation, the erosion of respect for legal and social conventions, and the resonance of their rhetoric in challenging authority. The recent raids by DIICOT, by DCOT, reflects the ongoing commitment of the Romanian authorities to fully investigate the allegations against the Tates. Of course, they're just allegations at the moment, but the fact that it's got into the news and the fact there's so much there already, it makes you think. There's no flame without fire, and the brothers' continued claim of innocence, claiming they're victims of a politically motivated conspiracy, which is put out by their spokesperson, Matea Petrescu, demonstrates that the charges are not fully clarified, but the seriousness of these allegations cannot be understated. Internationally, the case against them has drawn significant attention, and even if they get through this Romanian stuff, they've still got to face charges which I believe they face in Britain and elsewhere. So as the legal process unfolds, I think that the media will monitor what goes on, the developments, how these impact public perceptions of the Tates. I think they're rapidly moving in the same direction as Tommy Robinson towards a sort of social media martyrdom. But I think the end game, it's going to be very difficult for them to avoid incarceration or at least disgrace. I think it's going to be very difficult. The system has clearly got them marked as problem makers, and rather like Al Capone, if the system can't get them on one thing, it'll get them on another.